You're watching Roll Tide Daily, the new daily program for Crimson Tide fans, presented by SEC Country. Now, here's your host, former Alabama All-American, Mike Johnson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back into Roll Tide Daily. My name is Mike Johnson. God, I love that music, man. Let that play for a second. I love that music. Brings in the best 30 minutes of my day and hopefully the best 30 minutes of yours. My name is Mike Johnson. I suited up for the Crimson Tide, and now I'm working right here at SEC Country, trying to bring you the latest and greatest. And we invite you all to jump in the Facebook comment section, the YouTube comment section, get your comments rolling today. Comment section's on fire already. We got Roll Tide from Pratt City, Roll Tide from Pensacola. My man from back home, Isaac Berry, says Roll Tide as well. Lots of you guys bringing in the comments. The fire was coming in the comment section last week. Invite you guys to do the same as we kick off this special Monday edition. We're going to have Chris Kirchner in a little bit later in the show. He's going to be our special guest today. He's been out at the Elite 11 camp out in California all weekend with 4 Bama quarterbacks, 2 current, 2 future quarterbacks out there for University of Alabama competing in the Elite 11 camps out there. So that's going to be topic number 1. We're going to kick it off because we got a ton of video to show you guys today. I think it's a ton of good stuff, man. Let's be specific here, right? It's June 4th. We don't ever get to get these guys on the field. We never get a look inside what practices look like, especially not during a quarterback competition. So when you kind of kick these things off, and when you go into June, I think we're, 89 days away from playing Louisville. You don't ever get to get these inside looks, but Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, both of them taking the field out in California this past weekend for the Elite 11 camps. And from everybody that was in attendance on Saturday at the finals, the kind of pro day portion of this, Jalen Hurts looked extremely crisp. And I think, listen, full context on Friday, I think that everybody thought Tua looked better. I think that Jalen looked like he had some wobbly passes, some dropped balls. Here you're seeing some of what these guys were getting into this weekend. And we're going to be able to show you a couple of their pro day workouts coming up. But before we get into that, full disclosure, Tua looked a lot better Friday, right? But Jalen coming back Saturday, kind of like a nighttime deal Saturday night, doing what Jalen Hurts always seems to do, battling back from adversity, right? Kind of back against the wall. He's making sure that his presence is being known. He sees what Tua's been able to do Friday, comes back and battles back. And I think that's kind of big to kind of bring into focus here when you talk about this quarterback competition. A lot of people say that, hey, listen, this is Tua's job to lose. The ceiling's too high to look the other direction. But listen, I want you to take a look here at what Jalen Hurts has been able to do. He's crisp. His footwork looks good. Doesn't look like a guy that's conceding anything, right? It's like a guy that's kind of diving back into this quarterback competition, making sure his presence is being felt out on the field out there in California. From everybody we've talked to, and we're going to get Chris Kirchner in here a little bit later on the phone to talk about this, Jalen Hurts actually looked like the better quarterback on Saturday, right? I mean, we're talking about Tua, we're talking about Talia and Paul Tyson. We're both out there. We're going to get into them a little bit later. Jalen Hurts, looking as crisp as he did, he puts a hoodie on when you go to the nighttime game. He's got all these quarterback coaches around him, everybody kind of watching his footwork, and Jalen doing what Jalen always seems to do, and that's rising to the occasion. I think I don't want to say that we're blowing it out of proportion because it's June, right? It's June 4th, and we're looking at what's going on this weekend. We're looking at this quarterback competition from all angles. It's the same thing Nick Saban's going to be doing, Michael Locksley, Dan Enos. They're going to be looking at both these guys. They're going to be looking at some of the small things, some of the footwork things, the timing of the drills. I just think this is the latest indication that this quarterback competition isn't going anywhere just yet. I'm with a lot of people. When you point to Tua, we start talking about Heisman odds. You start talking about what he could possibly be. 9-1 Heisman odds. Will Jalen transfer? Will he not transfer? This isn't over anytime soon. This is one of those things that's going to drag out all the way into fall camp. I think that these videos that we're going to be able to bring to y'all today is just the latest evidence of what's kind of going on with some of these guys. Now, I've watched both these videos up and down. I've watched these kind of daytime kind of highlight clips. I've watched the pro day clips. I've watched the nighttime kind of spread it out kind of things going on. Jalen right here kind of puts his hood on. These are the nighttime clips. This is Saturday's pro day. If you look at this really closely, watch how crisp he looks. I mean, everything's hitting in stride. The ball's being thrown extremely well. And it's like I said from Chris Kirchner earlier, he talks about how, listen, it was not even close really Saturday. It was Jalen's job on Saturday to kind of take the top off this thing, and he did just that, looking crisp, kind of at the end here, kind of dapping everybody up, getting a lot of thumbs up in the comment section. Isaac Berry saying it only matters how he looks on game day. I agree with that, but listen, it's June 4th, and there's a lot of development. I think that's what gets lost when we talk about these quarterback competitions. Summer is a huge time. You look at what you saw on 8A, and then you look at Louisville, and you look at what the opening will be. You look at week number 1. this competition's not over. A lot of different things can happen throughout the summer. A lot of, injuries can be dinged up. A lot of players can look a lot different. You can have, kind of special relationships with your wide receiver core. So when you look at what these guys are able to do, I think it's extremely important to note what these guys look like right now, because this is an enhanced Jalen Hurts, in my opinion. I mean, watching that 7-on-7 drill right there, watching these guys run routes on air, not really a 7-on-7 drill, I guess. There's no defenders. Watching these guys run routes on air, I got to tell you, I think that's the best I've seen Jalen's arm look. I think he was crisp. I think it was a tight spiral. I think that he was hitting guys in stride, and obviously Tua's going to do those things. Tua's a special talent. Tua's one of those guys that is always going to look good. I'm one of those guys that kind of sees a left-hander throwing the ball and it kind of spitting out of there, and you think about Steve Young, and you think about all these other guys. But I think what my point here is that Jalen's not going anywhere. And as far as June goes, and then you move into July, and then you kick off camp in August, and then before you know it, September 1st is here. Like I said, 89 days away till we're playing Louisville. I think it's extremely important to kind of take that into context. A lot of you guys chiming in the comments section. Dean Mitchell says Saban consistently starts the quarterback with the most seniority, but Tua will play quite a bit. That's a good way to look at it. I think that Saban does usually play the senior version of the quarterback, but I also think there is an opportunity here for Nick Saban to kind of turn against that. I think that might have been used against him in recruiting here recently, and you always want to turn the tide against what people are probably saying about you. I think Saban has an opportunity here to play an underclassman. Rick Kaiser weighing in. Extremely important to see how these guys played in the championship game. Jibber jabber fluff is all this is. Hurts will never win a championship. Listen, man, jibber jabber fluff, you can call it what it is. I think what we're doing is bringing important video to the table here. I think that we can talk about September 1st all we want to, but it's not going to get here any faster. So to be able to bring these clips to you guys and be able to see really what these guys are in action the first weekend in June is important in terms of what we're going to see from these guys this coming fall. Brad West says, put a defense out there and see how crispy looks. I'm with you, man. Listen, I'm all about the offensive line play. I'm all about the nitty-gritty in the trenches. I'm all about the smash-mouth football, because the bottom line is this. Jalen Hurts out in the 8A game did not get much protection. I mean, everybody wanted to talk about how he didn't look any different and how Jalen was taking off running. He had to. I think Jalen was showing a lot of people what the upside can be when you do have a quarterback that is looking for one of those things, like he has to escape the pocket, has to do things with his legs, has to make plays on the run. That's what Jalen does bring. So put a defense out there. And listen, I'm not sure Jalen's going to look any worse. I think he's just, he's able to evade defenders and, does some good things, obviously, with his legs. William Lee chiming in on the YouTube comment section. Besides Chris, who said Hurts looked better? I've seen a lot of people out there, and I'm not talking about the camp overall. Don't get me mistaken here, and don't take this out of context. Don't think this is some kind of clickbait. This is at the finals on Saturday. I'm not talking about the entire camp. From everybody I've talked to, Jalen did not look very good Friday. Wobbly balls, some drop passes, some missed timing. On Saturday, though, that's where the context gets brought in. Jalen Hurts is able to have his back against the wall and show up and play a lot better on Saturday night under the lights, so it's a big thing to look at. Another duo of tied quarterbacks that we're going to talk about here in segment number 2, Talia Tagovailoa, Tua's brother, against Paul Tyson. You've heard his name. He's Bear Bryant's great-grandson. Both these guys committed to Alabama. They were both out at the Elite 11 camp this past weekend as high school players, both trying to get those invites to the Elite 11 finals. Talia Tagovailoa actually does get his invites to the Elite 11 finals. A lot of you guys remember that follow recruiting. Tua Tagovailoa was actually the Elite 11 MVP back in 2016. It's kind of a highly coveted award, right? When you talk about high school quarterbacks from around the country, everybody wants to get to the Elite 11. Here you have a little bit of Talia Tagovailoa kind of spreading the ball out. Both of these guys really had high praise from a lot of the people in attendance. Chris Kirchner, as well as a ton of other guys that were writing about it. Paul Tyson looks like he has a little bit of work to do, but Talia Tagovailoa, a little bit of shorter version of Tua, the right-handed version of Tua. A lot of people kind of saying he's like a Russell Wilson. I think he's 5'11", but really has the instincts needed to be a great quarterback. So seeing these guys kind of chime off, out there in California is a lot of fun, right? These quarterback competitions pop up. Boy, how could you have two quarterbacks committed to the same university? I think we've all seen there's enough room in that quarterback room coming up for both of these guys. So I think it's very special to kind of get them on the field at the same time. And get those guys kind of competing out there on the field early before they even get to Alabama, before they even get to their senior seasons, really, both around the Birmingham area in terms of what they're trying to do. So everybody weighing in the comment section too. Christopher Clay, there's no need to try and trash talk. Let them develop and improve themselves on their shortcomings. They'll only get better as they continue to play. It's all about the process. Preach it, Christopher. I can't tell you how much I agree with what you're saying right there. It's June. You're talking about what this guy can't do, what this guy can't do. And everybody talks about recruiting and 5 stars and guys that make a splash early in their true freshman championship seasons. Let these guys develop, man. Let Talia Tagovailoa and even Tua and Jalen too throughout the summer. Let these recruits get into their senior season. Let these guys develop. Give them June, July in their fall camp before we're ready to make a passing grade or a failing grade. I think obviously there's a ceiling when you talk about some of those things, but there's a lot of time left before then. Until then, let's get to our special guest and the man that was on the scene this weekend out in California. That's our guy, Chris Kirchner. Chris, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man, and we're playing a little bit of the videotape we received from you back here at SEC Country headquarters, and I got to tell you, having a look at Tua Tagovailoa and Jalen Hurts on the field in June, not August, not September, not the spring 8A game, having a look at them on the field in June was a great thing for us, and I appreciate you bringing us those videos. I mean, just give us a little bit of background, just give us a little bit of your grading in terms of what goes into this, because we've already talked about it. You thought that on Saturday, Jalen really answered the call in terms of what was asked of him. Kind of back against the wall after Friday, but really comes out throwing some nice balls on Saturday. Just give us your opinion of what those guys looked like this weekend.
Yeah, so on Friday, so they had several college quarterbacks there who were at the camp as counselors. So those guys had an opportunity to compete on Friday and Saturday. And in my opinion, I thought on Friday, Jalen really, really struggled. I think, in my opinion, and several other reporters who were in attendance thought Jalen was one of the worst quarterbacks there on Friday. And that includes the high school quarterbacks that he was counseling. And then on Saturday, Jalen, they had a pro day workout. That's what they call it at the Elite 11. They go through, I think it was 20 throws in the span of 8 minutes. They go all up and down the field. And Jalen really, really answered, like you said, on Saturday. As far as Tua goes, he was really consistent throughout. You know, obviously he missed 8A with his left finger injury. There was no sign that Tua had any effect of that injury. I mean, he was throwing darts all across the field, making every single throw. There was one drill that they were doing on Friday where they have to stand in the box and get the ball out as quickly as possible. And Tua actually had one of the fastest release times of the day on Friday. So there was really no effect on his finger. He never really balled his hand up in a fist to show any sort of pain or anything like that. So I think he's 100% healthy, and it's going to be interesting to see how it turns out here when fall camp rolls around. But in my opinion, I still think Tua should be the starting quarterback from what I saw this past weekend.
Boy, that's good stuff there, talking about kind of the injury that Tua went through, whether his hand's 100% healthy. Did you see that these guys, their interactions with each other? I think that's one of the storylines we're kind of following here. Their interactions with each other. Did they talk much on the field? Or these kind of guys that were cheering each other on? Is that something that we can expect from them moving forward? Or is this kind of a, hey, I'm battling you for this position, I don't want to talk to you?
No, I mean, obviously it's a heated quarterback competition, but these guys are really good friends with each other. You know, they're always around each other, talking with each other, cracking jokes. You wouldn't think that one of the two is, you know, not going to win the starting quarterback battle, and the other one is. I mean, they're good friends. And I actually asked, I talked to his father for quite some time. He was in California yesterday, and I was asking him, what is the relationship like between Tua and Jalen? And he told me that they're very good friends. They hang out a lot in Tuscaloosa. There's no hate toward one another. I mean, they're in this together. And they actually encourage each other. And it's interesting because, you know, one of those guys is not going to be the starting quarterback, and one of those guys may end up going to a different school if he loses the quarterback job. So I thought that was definitely interesting to hear that, you know, these guys are actually really good friends on and off the field.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. When you talk about it, I've been in those locker rooms before, right? Everybody wants to pit you against each other on the outside, but really, these are just two guys in college that are, you know, teenagers going into their 20s that really just want to have a good time and play some football. So I think that's interesting to look at. Let's dig a little bit deeper into the future Tide quarterbacks. Obviously, you got a chance to watch, you know, Paul Tyson against Talia Tagovailoa kind of match up in a lot of different ways. This could be a small peek at a future quarterback competition there under Nick Saban at Alabama. What'd you make of these two guys? Obviously, Talia getting the invites to the Elite 11 finals, but Paul Tyson having a good showing as well.
Yeah, I thought both of them did really well. On Friday, I thought Paul struggled a little bit. Talia had a really good Friday, in my opinion. I thought he was one of the top 3 or 5 quarterbacks on Friday. And then Saturday, Talia didn't do that well. I thought he was just okay on Saturday. And I actually thought Paul was better than Talia on Saturday during that pro day workout. All the quarterbacks did the exact same stuff, the counselors and the high school quarterbacks. And then on Sunday, the counselors didn't compete in the 7-on-7 competition, but I was taking stats of those guys, and Talia finished 12 of 17 with 3 touchdowns, and Paul finished 10 of 16 with 2 touchdowns. And both those quarterbacks had some drops from their receivers. So, in all actuality, I thought they were better than what their statistics showed. So, I thought both those guys did really well. I think the reason why Paul likely didn't get the invitation to the Elite 11 is because he just had such a mountain to climb after Friday. Like I said, he didn't do that well. Heading into Sunday, he was actually toward the bottom of the current Elite 11 rankings. The Elite 11 directors and the coaches put together a list of the top 24 quarterbacks who were in attendance, and I think Paul was in the bottom third of those rankings. So he had such a mountain to climb that it was, even with a good performance on Sunday, which he did have, it was going to be tough for him to get that invitation to the opening finals later this month at the Cowboys practice facilities. But, I definitely was impressed with both those guys, and I think the future of Alabama's quarterback position is in good hands.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Having 4 guys out in California, the current quarterbacks and the future quarterbacks for Alabama, seems like a big deal. Anybody that's watching, anybody paying attention, having 4 guys out there is always a good thing. Obviously, this is an Alabama-heavy show, Chris, but is there anybody else out there you were impressed with? I mean, I know Bo Nix, the Auburn commitment was out there. Ryan Helinski, South Carolina commitment. Who else were you really impressed with? I mean, whether it be current college quarterbacks or high school guys.
Yeah, I mean, those 2 guys you just mentioned were really impressive. Bo Nix committed to Auburn, the son of Patrick Nix, former Auburn quarterback. But, yeah, I thought Bo was really impressive. I've been impressed with Bo every single time I've seen him in a camp setting. I haven't gotten to see him play yet in a high school game on Friday nights yet, but every time I've seen him in camp, he's done really well. He's super consistent. This was the first time that I actually saw Helinski, who's committed to South Carolina, and I was very impressed with him. He was, in my opinion, probably one of the top 3 quarterbacks on Saturday during that pro day workout. Very good quarterback, very consistent, very accurate with the football. As far as college quarterbacks, I was actually very impressed with UCF quarterback Mackenzie Milton. He put on a show on Saturday during that workout. He was just making every single throw. The best throw that he had, he was on the run, rolled out to his right, threw it about 40 yards, right over the shoulder of the wide receiver that he was throwing to. It was a perfect throw. Pretty much all of his throws were on the money during that Saturday. And the same thing goes with Tua and Jalen. I thought those guys were really good. I thought McKenzie, though, out of the college quarterbacks that were there, was probably the most impressive quarterback. Drew Lock also had a really good showing, quarterback at Missouri. Will Grier, quarterback at West Virginia. Thought those 2 guys were also really, really impressive on Friday and Saturday. But overall, I mean, I think Alabama's quarterbacks, the current and the future ones, really competed nicely alongside all those other guys who are at, currently in college or in high school. So, like I said, I do think that the future at quarterback for Alabama is in really good shape.
Chris, an article I saw from BamaHammer.com kind of highlights something I've kind of thought for a while, and I'd love to get your thoughts on it. The thought that Bama could possibly set a record. I mean, already the number 1 class in the country, could possibly set a record for number of 5 stars maybe brought into this class. A lot of guys really leaning Alabama's way. Obviously, Pierce Quick being a guy that's already on the commitment list. Another guy like Clay Webb, somebody you think will land at Alabama. Ismail Sopsher, Fatua Tuatele. I mean, what are the odds that we get up around the 6 or 7 mark that Alabama established a couple years ago and that Georgia had last year? I mean, is there an opportunity for Bama to really get to that threshold again this year?
Yeah, I definitely think so, especially after last year. Kind of a disappointing recruiting class, and I mean, disappointing and Alabama's still finished in the top 10. So disappointing is relative to what Alabama has accomplished, obviously, over the past decade pretty much. But, yeah, I do think that, this 2019 class, the way it's shaping up, it definitely has a possibility to be Nick Saban's best, and which is crazy to think because of all the great recruiting classes that Alabama has had. Because of so many five-star prospects either leaning toward Alabama currently or having Alabama as one of their top 2, 3, or 4 schools at this time. You mentioned some of them. Clay Webb, the five-star center, nation's #1 center. I think he's definitely going to go to Alabama when he makes his decision in December. Tui Tuitele, the five-star defensive tackle, former teammates with Tua Tagovailoa out in Honolulu. He's actually cousins with the Tagovailoa brother, so there's a connection right there. He's expected to make his decision before his season begins in the fall, and I think at this time Alabama should be considered the favorite to land him. Ishmael Sopsher, you mentioned, it's probably going to come down to Alabama and LSU. From what I've been told from people is that Alabama should be considered the favorite for Sopsher. I don't know if I actually believe that at this time. I still think it's a tight battle between LSU, and you always have to take note of LSU because he is from Louisiana. He lives about an hour away from Baton Rouge. There's a lot of pressure on LSU to start landing these top guys and stop losing them to Alabama and other schools. So LSU is definitely going to make him a priority, and they already have. Other five stars, you have Daxton Hill. He's a five-star safety from Oklahoma. He's taking an official visit to Tuscaloosa, I believe, next weekend. He's going to be in Tuscaloosa making his second trip this spring. Nakobe Dean, the #1 inside linebacker from Mississippi. He's been to Alabama around 5 or 6 times. He's also taking an official visit to Alabama during the week that Daxton Hill will be there. So, I mean, those are, 5, 6 guys that I just mentioned who are five-star prospects. I'm sure I'm missing some off the top of my head, but Alabama's in good shape with all of these guys. And as we've seen, Nick Saban, you can't count him out in any recruiting race. So even if a five-star prospect may not be favoring Alabama at this time, you better believe that Saban and his staff will do anything possible to change that narrative and make sure that Alabama is the school these guys land at.
Well, Chris, I think I joined Bama Nation in saying I'm going to keep my fingers crossed all the way until next February. But until then, man, really appreciate you joining us. Great work out in California, and look forward to hearing from you again pretty soon, buddy.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
All right, that's Chris Kirchner right there from SEC Country, and there might not be anybody better at this point in time to talk about the Elite 11 and what's going on in Bama recruiting. You've heard him sit there and mention names: Tua Tuitele, Ismail Sopsher, Trey Sanders, Kayvon Thibodeau, all guys Bama's trying to hope to land here in the next recruiting class. A lot of five-star guys kind of floating around out there that Bama would love to be home to, as people keep trying to say Bama's slowing down on the recruiting trail. There you have a record number of 5 stars kind of in their sights. Well, you guys really, I mean, you guys have been chiming in on the comment section. I love what's going on here. TMF Porter Boy says Jalen Hurts will start. Tim Glover coming right behind him saying go Tua. Bobby J. Smith kind of saying, I think Bama could win with either quarterback. I will say that we need both this year. That's kind of an interesting thing, too. I think that's really the way I personally kind of hope things translate and play out, that I'd love for both these guys to stay on the roster. I'd love for both of them to have the opportunity to get significant playing time. I think that's something Nick Saban, it's kind of, what would Nick do? You kind of got to believe what Nick Saban's saying and, talk about some of the things that he's willing to look past or the leadership that one's developed and try to find those things. David Hardy kind of echoing that consistency is the key. Tim Glover says Team Bama. Michael Card talking about those videos. They are throwing against air with no pressure. Look at the games and you will see that Hurts can't go through his reads against tough defenses. I mean, there were times last year, and obviously I watch it from an offensive line perspective. There were times last year when I watched some of the reads that Jalen was going through, and I was a little bit disappointed. But I wasn't so much the reads or his ability to make plays. It was more hitting guys in stride that I had an issue with last year with him as a quarterback. So that's one of the things I'm looking forward to, just kind of hitting guys in stride. I think Tua is a pretty good running quarterback as well, so that goes in his favor. All right, we're going to switch topics right now. We're going to go to something that I'm sure if you were a Bama fan that you saw on social media over the weekend, before the weekend kicks off, right? Before Tua and Jalen and all these guys head out to this Elite 11 camp out in California, wanted to get a little lake time. The leadership group over at Alabama heads out into the lake. Tua Tagovailoa, Terrell Lewis, I think Shyheim Carter was on the boat. Jalen was around there a little bit. I want you to see this video because something kind of crazy happened. Nick Saban's boat ran out of gas. Here's those guys right here on that boat, and they're a little bit stranded.
Hey, bro. Don't tell that other boat we ain't got no gas.
We ain't got no gas. We ain't got no gas. We ain't got no.
Man, they gotta get me out you, man. Brand new boat.
Hey, who's responsible for this, man?
Tell the other boat.
Hey, we ain't got no gas. Out of pocket.
I thought that was him.
Man, we done got stuck on the boat, y'all. If y'all want to find Coach Saban, you know where to come.
Man, y'all won't find. Y'all need to find me. Stuck, man, and I can't really survive out here. And, bro, I'm trying to get back to shore, bro. Man, we are stuck, bro.
I'm coming, bro. I'm coming.
Well, you got to love that, too. I mean, I think a lot of people would pay good money to be stuck on a boat with Nick Saban and Tua Tagovailoa and Terrell Lewis. A lot of those people would pay a ton of money to get out straight on a boat with them, but they're stuck out where there was no gas. I thought it was so funny. I mean, Nick Saban's one of these guys that pays attention to every little detail, but somebody dropped the ball and he winds up kind of yelling at another boat on the lake, hey, we're out of gas. I've been on these leadership trips with Nick Saban out in the lake. I can tell you he shows no mercy. This, to me, was a relaxed version of Nick Saban that most people don't get to see. Matter of fact, it's more relaxed than he was in my career. When we went on the boat trip, Nick Saban's wearing an Argyle sweater. He's got slacks on. You know, he kind of takes the loafers off so he doesn't nick up the boat. But, you know, kind of pulling those guys around on tubes. Nick Saban had no mercy for me pulling me on a tube. I thought he was going to tear a hole in my hand from holding onto the tube. So a lot of good times out there. And I do think it's funny that a lot of people say Alabama playing for that program is no fun. It's a ton of fun. The fun is in the winning, as Nick Saban always used to say, and obviously having a good time out there. Colin Visna weighing in says, great publicity. The story got national recognition, and Coach Saban laughing it off shows his softer side. Completely agree with you. All the downside, the negative recruiting, everything that goes into making Nick Saban out to be this monster. All of a sudden, he's laughing. He's wearing a Yankee shirt. He's in, kind of swim trunks out there hanging out with his players. I think that's a good time. Katie Runnels weighing in says, that many grown men panicking on a boat. Ha ha ha, so funny. I completely agree with that. Lynn Harden saying, "Oh, to have been a fly on the wall." Somebody got the brunt of that. I don't know who it was, but Nick Saban found whoever was supposed to fill the boat up with gas, and obviously had something to say about what was going on. But there's never a bad time to kind of spend a day out on the boat in terms of hanging out with Nick Saban, Tua, getting to know those guys, understanding the leadership that goes along with that. So I always like to leave you guys with the video of the day, and my video today comes via Scott Cochran's Twitter feed. And I think this is important to show because I told you last Tuesday, I guess after Memorial Day, these guys are kind of showing up, right? You're kind of starting that summer process. The decruitment's beginning. Some of the new signees are getting in the weight room. You know, you have these guys that kind of come in the weight room and they look around as recruits and they say, boy, it wouldn't be that bad to work out in here. Well, the decruitment is beginning. Scott Cochran has a small video for us to show. Here it is right here.
Up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Down, 16, up, down, 17, up, down, 18.
Boy, don't you love that right there? Anybody who looks at recruiting, looks at how big of a deal a lot of these guys are. You get on campus and guess what? They're all wearing black shoes. They're all wearing white socks. They all have gray shirts. They all have the same kind of uniform on. They're counting out their sit-ups, getting ready to do their planks, getting ready to do their workout and go out and run 110s. They're just becoming a part of the process, man. And I love every ounce of that process. Cynthia Giannini, hopefully I'm saying that correct, is Cochran is a beast. That's the truth, man. He's getting ready to send these guys on this kind of journey into the process. This is the first step. These guys are getting ready to get the brunt of that over in that 100-degree Tuscaloosa heat. I'm so thankful that you guys were able to join us today. We're going to have SEC Country Live this afternoon for you guys that like to see everything that's going on around the SEC. Please remember to share our Facebook post, our YouTube post, our Twitter post. We love being on the air with you guys, and hopefully you get a chance to join us each and every day, Monday through Thursday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, noon Central. Until tomorrow, my name is Mike Johnson. Thanks for joining us, and roll tide.
You've been watching Roll Tide Daily, the new daily program for Crimson Tide fans, presented by SEC Country.